Welcome in. We're going to be talking Michigan football, past, present, and future. The NFL draft this weekend, another giant advertisement for Michigan football. We had 3 in the top 13. Obviously, the slide of Will Johnson. We'll talk about that, some fits. A lot of you got to watch the Michigan spring game for the first time today. We'll take some questions on that and just some impact with the spring portal coming to an end, where we think the roster sits, and some players to watch as we head into fall and the future. Michigan, after landing Bryce Underwood 1 year later, gets another 5-star quarterback. Are they going to continue to add elite talent in the 2026 class? And what does this mean for the quarterback room? All that and more coming in. Hail to the podcast. Join us. All right. I wasn't on mute the whole time, was I?
No, you're good.
That was weird. It said like unmute when I came back in. I'm like, well, that would be funny. Sorry, We're running a little late for those of you joining us live here. Hail to the podcast, brought to you by Maize Blue Review. We cover Michigan for the Rivals Network, which means you can find us at michigan.rivals.com. If you are not a subscriber already, good news. Code 30. Promo code, blah, blah, blah. Promo code BLUE30. There it is. BLUE30 gets you 30 days free to give us a shot. Access to our Intel premium content and the message board community, The Den, which was on fire this week. We'll get into that. Josh Henschke had a good week. Not going to pat himself on the back. I will pat for him, but good week of Intel, good week of Michigan coverage over there. It's going to continue as we get into the summer. Mr. Josh Henschke joins me, Intel Insider, publisher, Maize Blue Review himself. Blink 182 shirt. Give me the look. What else is going on there? What is that?
It's their World Tour shirt.
Oh, okay.
Went to their show last year.
Oh, that's right.
At LCA.
I saw them a long time ago. What was it? Papa's Dad, I think it was called. It was them in Green Day. Oh my God, dude.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. But they were still like very, very like, it wasn't an old man show yet. Like
yeah. Yep. No, it's I've seen them I think 5 times now. I think I've seen them all 5 times.
They're a good show.
Yeah, they're good.
I mean, they play bad on purpose, but they're still a good show.
Yep. Exactly.
Awesome. All right. So no Brock today. He has a wedding or something not important like that he's at. So whatever. It's just going to be Josh and I today. Those watching, feel free. Like I said, we broke down the spring game last week. Brock and I did. That podcast is up. A lot of detail. We went through every position group. Didn't really want to rehash that. I know a lot of you did get to watch the spring game today or yesterday, depending on when you're listening back on this, with it now actually being broadcast a week later. We won't get into that either. So if you do have some questions, feel free to throw them into the comment section. We'll try and make it fit in where relevant. And yeah, if you're not watching us live, good reason to watch live. Be a part of the conversation, ask questions. So make sure you're liking, subscribing, notification bell on the YouTube channel. So kind of cheesy. I went past, present, future today, just because this week was a little bit of everything, right? So obviously the NFL draft started Thursday. We were hoping Michigan would break their own program record and have 4 first-round picks for the first time ever. If I would have told you, I don't know, weeks ago at the beginning of last season, whatever, that the one player of the expected players to go in the first round to not go in the first round was Will Johnson, I don't think he would have believed me. That said, look, I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but for those of you with the narrative that Will was shutting down for business purposes last year, and we were saying like, hey, nope, he's hurt, right? Some lingering injuries. He's been hurt throughout his career. Well, there you go. I didn't know it was this serious, that it would freak out teams like it did, but he ends up going in the second round of the Cardinals, a place I think is actually going to be a good fit for him. Yeah. Kind of funny. He gets to play against Marvin Harrison every day as well. But hey, Michigan does have 3 go in the top 13. So Mason Graham, we were hearing 5 to the Jaguars forever. And then a couple days before, maybe the Jags were going to take Ashton Genty. They end up trading up for Travis Hunter, and Cleveland falls back, gets the guy they want anyway. At 5, Mason Graham goes 5th overall. Pretty cool. And, oh, my God, Tyler Warren. Nope, Colston Loveland, first tight end off the board, number 10 to the Bears. We'll get into that. That seems like an unbelievable fit for him. And then Kenneth Grant takes his talents to South Beach, going to Miami. Mr. Stephen Ross stays loyal to Michigan, takes the Wolverine. But my favorite part, Josh, is just especially if you're watching NFL Network and you've got Rich Eisen there, the free publicity Michigan football gets having these juniors go in the first round. And then, man, Ohio loves them some Michigan boys. It's the Browns and the Bengals constantly picking Michigan guys. Yeah. It's pretty funny. But anyway, just your quick thoughts on the draft and where everybody landed.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously the Will Johnson stuff was a little surprising. I figured if he was going to dip, he was going to dip late into the first. But yeah, Arizona's got to be just pumping their fists knowing that they got a value pick now, a value pick of Will Johnson in the second round. I mean, obviously the injury stuff, he's had injury things happen to him throughout his 3-year career in Ann Arbor. So yeah, I mean, some franchises are weird about injury stuff or future injury concerns. It's funny that they consider Will Johnson a concern, but Colston Loveland was banged up with his shoulder all year.
Right.
And he had shoulder issues limiting him, and that didn't seem to impact him at all. And he's tight end 1, but yeah, I don't think there was really any major surprises for me outside of Johnson. Maybe a Donovan not being taken at all in the first 7 rounds was maybe a bit of a surprise. I thought he would be maybe a 6th round selection, possibly a 7th. But when you're talking about fringe 7th round guys, you're almost better off not being selected in the
he was round. Yeah.
So so I mean, now he was in a position where he can kind of pick a situation where he ends up with the Jets. You can get sometimes a pretty nice guarantee if you're a UDFA guy. You can examine depth charts compared to being drafted wherever you don't have a choice. So do I think he can make the Jets roster? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know enough about the Jets to even make a good guess there. But
well, lucky for you, Josh, I did an article on the 4 undrafted free agents for Michigan football, and I did break down into the depth charts and stuff. So if anybody wants to look at that, that's over at michigan.rivals.com.
There you go.
Yeah, he's got a good chance at RB3. Braylon Allen is there from Wisconsin. Despite rumors last year, they're not the closest of friends, but but they do know each other. And then obviously Breece Hall. But I think Donovan, when you look at the Jets being taken over by some familiar names from Detroit, so there's some Detroit familiarity with Aaron Glenn, but the OC, Tanner Engstrand, is a guy who literally worked with Donovan Edwards at Michigan and also runs an offense similar to what Ben Johnson did in Detroit, where running backs are going to be featured in the passing game as well. So I think he's got a good path there. That's probably a big reason why he signed. There's some familiarity, but yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about the Engstrand connection. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean that sometimes all it takes is knowing someone and knowing what they're capable of, and you'll get a shot. So, yeah, I mean, again, another good weekend for Michigan in terms of especially when you're talking defensive line development. That continues now into 2 coaching staffs that are capable of developing guys and sending them to the next level. Espo is still kind of, sharp, I guess, sharpening that narrative a little bit. I mean, obviously when you inherit guys like Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, you're sitting pretty, but he's shown in the past that he's capable of developing guys. So that's still a huge calling card, for Espo and the defensive staff, that they can still send guys to the pros on a consistent basis. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Even when you're looking ahead to this upcoming year's team, there's some pros on the defensive side of the ball too.
Yeah, you got to think. We've talked a little bit about, Derek Moore's got a chance to get up there. Rashawn Benny's got a chance to get up there. But yeah, Lou's got Josiah Stewart going to the Rams with Braden Fisk.
Yep.
Who he recruited to Western. And yeah, Lou, we've talked about this before where, man, Lou might be the best position coach on the team already. But then you're like, oh man, Lamar Moore, like Sherrone did a good job with the staff. I know it took a year for everybody to kind of get settled in here, but Sherrone did a good job with the staff.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Mason in Cleveland, incredible fit. The idea of him having Myles Garrett
Yeah.
as a partner, you're not going to be able to double and triple team both of them. So Mason has a chance to just either really help Myles or he can get to the quarterback when they're focusing so much on him. I think that's going to be fun. I mean, Cleveland is Cleveland, right? So, like, kind of like Detroit in terms of narratives that surround the franchise, but they had a good draft. And then Loveland to Chicago. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's a great fit.
You remember Sam Laporta's rookie year with Ben Johnson? Like, and now you're on. I mean, Loveland has always been the guy at Michigan, and now he goes to an offense that's got DJ Moore, Dunze, and then they took who was the other wide receiver they took? Oh, Luther Burden.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that's if I hate it as a Lions fan, right? But man, Bears, if you've got that roster and you can't make the offensive work now with Johnson, it's just never going to work in Chicago. But
Yep. Or at least not work with Caleb Williams. You know, the jury's still out on him for me personally. I think he's a good quarterback, surrounded by a bad staff. So we'll see what Ben Johnson can do. I mean, he's not a defensive wizard. So, you know, they could put up 45 points a game, but if they let up 47, then, you know, they're still going to be in trouble. So, yeah, we'll see. You know, I think, but in terms of just
horn on Williams, but
just just from a Loveland fit, I think he can put up some numbers in that offense.
Yes.
Ben Johnson. I mean, Johnson can absolutely scheme him open. So, and he's obviously way more athletic than Laporta, and Laporta's pretty damn good too. So, there's a lot of things that you could do with Loveland in Chicago, and yeah, that's a great. He's in a really good spot for him.
This Cardinals draft, just real quick, like when I think about when people do mock drafts for fun and stuff, like you only pick like the big names from the big schools that you've heard of, right?
Yep.
That's what the Cardinals did. Like on defense, listen to this: Walter Nolan, Ole Miss; Will Johnson, Jordan Birch, Oregon; Cody Simon, Ohio State; Denzel Burke, Ohio State. Like these are all like guys that have been around forever, top recruits, big programs, but like all on the defensive side of the ball. That's pretty. I don't know if it'll work because sometimes just drafting the big name guys doesn't work. But man, like imagine if all those guys were on the same team in college. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. If they can hit on like 75% of those 75% of those picks, they're going to be sitting pretty well. I mean, yeah, Walter Nolan at the next level. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. Will Johnson, we don't even need to talk about him. I mean, if he can translate to the next level, he's going to be an all-pro kind of guy. So, yeah, I mean, that's another good spot, you know, I think for Will, because there's not a lot of pressure on him in Arizona. So, and yeah, you get to go up against Marvin Harrison in practice. And so
that was pretty cool. He tweeted about right after too. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. It's so, look, I mean, the sky's the limit for Will. I think, you know, once he gets, I think he just needs to be healthy. He just needs to get a good, nice, clean bill of health and have it stay that way. And really for him to show what, you know, he's capable of at the next level. So, you know, hopefully the injury bug kind of stays away from him, compared to what happened at Michigan. I mean, he played through a ton of stuff,
right?
That really never got publicized. So, yeah, if he can avoid that, he'll be doing pretty well for himself.
I get the long-term concern, like anytime there's an injury or whatever, but like I saw something that's like, man, you know, after that surgery he had, he might only be at like 80 or 85%. It's like I've seen Will Johnson at 70%.
Yeah, but
You know what I mean?
Yeah, have we seen Will Johnson at 100% ever?
Right.
You know, I mean, and he's still fantastic. So it's kind of you feel as a Michigan fan, you feel robbed a little bit that you never got to see Will Johnson at 100%, because who knows what heights he could have reached, you know, with a full bill of health. But he was doing all of this stuff not healthy. not 100%, banged up all the time. And that's not a knock on him, and I'm not dogging him. I'm just saying that, like, there could have been another level that he could have reached, and he was still the best corner in the country. So,
Right.
It's unfortunate, but
Pick six machine.
There's so much untapped potential still left in Will Johnson in my mind, that I think that a good defensive coordinator and good DB coach can get out of him at the next level.
I agree. All right. I don't know. I don't really want to do too much NFL draft stuff. That works for me. I kind of miss I don't know if this is dating myself, but remember when it started Saturday at noon?
Yeah.
And you had the first 3 rounds on Saturday, and then there was the second, like, dedicating multiple nights to it, and then another day. It's just, I don't know. It's getting too much.
Yeah. I liked it all.
Oh, the Pistons. Poor Blake.
Oh, Blake. Yeah. I did not watch the Pistons game, so I don't know what anyone's talking about the being screwed. So I don't have any comment on that, unfortunately. But
it's okay. The crew already reported with the refs that after reviewing it should have been a foul. So
cool. Yeah.
It's just refs in general, man. This mindset that we have of, like, don't make yourself part of the game. So it's like they swallow the whistle at the end. It's like you made yourself part of the game by not calling a foul that was clearly a foul. But you're like, oh, you can't call a foul there. Yeah, you can. When it's a foul, you can actually. Good God. All right, let's get into some present. Like I said, I didn't want to go through the whole spring game again. We have an hour and 40-minute show already up where we did that. If you guys have some questions related to the spring game, particularly, feel free to throw them in. Like I said, we'll kind of fit them in. But the big thing for me is the spring portal and post, spring game, where activity has been or hasn't been, and what I think that means about the Michigan roster at some big spots. So running back, we know Benjamin Hall left right before the portal. And we have reported on, oh my gosh, Donovan Johnson. I almost called him Jordan Davison, the other guy. Donovan Johnson's injury and how that's impacted. So they bring in 2 running backs in the portal, CJ Hester and, oh my gosh, I forgot his name now. I'm out of it today. Princeton Volker. Yep. Thank you, Volker. And interesting, I think Hester's probably in play for an RB3 like role. I don't think Michigan's going to completely stall out their young players coming out, but having a guy with some veteran experience was big. And Volker is surprisingly, like, elite in pass protection. I was seeing, like, in terms of blocking as a running back in pass pro. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe he comes in some 3rd and long situations, but they're obviously comfortable there. I think the story continues to be, Josh, they obviously talked to a couple left tackles almost immediately. Yeah. But the problem Michigan has and will have is you can't go get a guy that is starting caliber left tackle unless you promise him the starting left tackle job. And you're not going to do that unless you want to ruin an entire room of offensive linemen where you've told them we will never promise a starting job and everybody earns it, right? So, for me, you nailed it. We gave you the shout out of the pod about writing, and you said on Friday, Giovanni El-Hadi, Greg Crippen, and Sprague were pretty much good to write in ink. Sherrone Moore comes out and says as much. That left tackle spot, they're obviously not comfortable with it. So is it Evan Link? Is Sprague eventually moving over there? Or what it feels like to me more and more is I think they think Andrew Babalola can win that job.
His name keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. Somehow, some way. Well, not somehow, some way. I mean, the kid has got all the talent in the world. He's just extremely raw at that position. So if you feel like Babalola is physically ready, do you feel comfortable enough with a true freshman likely as your starter? Do you feel comfortable enough letting Babalola have on-the-job learning experience like you did with Link? Maybe. I guess it just kind of depends on how you feel about the other side of the line, because that's asking a lot for a kid like Babalola. And it's not like starting a true freshman on the offensive line is some foreign concept. We've seen teams do it before. Michigan's done it before. It's rare. It still happens, but Babalola's name keeps coming up for a reason, and he was highly ranked for a reason. But the lack of football, I don't want to say football smarts, because it sounds like I'm trying to minimize the kid.
He started playing football late. It was like a
sophomore. Right. There's a lot of the ceiling there is very, very high, but the starting floor is very, very low because he just does not have experience playing football. So it's, for me, that's a big ask for Babalola. If they feel like he's ready, he's physically ready, and you just don't trust what else you have, sure, that's fine too. And Scott, you just brought up the Brady Norton thing too. He's also another guy, not much experience. Yes, he's played at the next level, or he's played at not in like a D2 role, but that he's another guy that's kind of scratching the surface and needs a little bit of development time. Could be very good. So can they add another tackle? Sure, but as you said, they're expensive. If you're a good lineman, especially a tackle, you're gonna cost a lot of money in the NIL world. And Michigan has a lot of resources dumped into their OL right now, and it's again, there's no promises, and you'll effectively have to promise a kid a starting role, especially one that has had experience and is considered a highly rated guy out of, in terms of portal rankings. So can they add someone? Just because the portal's closed doesn't mean a grad transfer can't go in and be your 1 year stopgap. So
grad transfers can't enter anymore, but
did that rule change? Was I not aware of it?
Yeah, no.
I can't.
But the point is, people that are in the portal still can sign. That's the thing I don't think people understand sometimes. Like, you have to enter by a certain date, but obviously anybody that's in the portal can still potentially. Yeah, grad transfers that I didn't know. They changed the rule now where they have the same cutoff. So
they need to just figure everything out.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
But
I mean, yeah, but I would like to see where Lawrence Hatter kind of projects.
I was gonna say that's a good. When I talked to him when he first committed, he made it very clear, like, he's coming for that left guard job.
Yeah,
he expects to start at left guard. Obviously, with him not there in the spring, Michigan went ahead and moved El Hadi back to left guard, where he was more comfortable. Afobe at right guard, where he's arguably more comfortable. So. And just because Moore said what he said about Ahadi doesn't mean it's done. Hatter can still come in and compete. We saw guys take jobs in the last week of fall camp last year, right? But yeah, he becomes an interesting piece, because does he compete at right guard? Or does he potentially have a chance to compete at left tackle as well? Like, again, Michigan has come into this year saying, I want my 5 best offensive linemen, and I'll figure out the rest of the positions after, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we said, maybe Evan Link is one of the 5 best, but they don't like him at left tackle, and he ends up at right guard, right? Or, we'll have to see. But the truth is, somebody kind of mentioned this earlier about, here we go, your average fan, Babalola goes from needs times to develop to we really need him ready. Brock and I kind of suggested as much too. And Brady Norton committed, it was like, hey, he's a swing guy, right? We see him as, good that can play on both sides. He's probably a year away. Andrew Babalola, this dude's probably going to develop into a top 15 NFL draft pick. He's got all the tools and stuff, but he might be a year away, right? And now they're both pushing for that starting job at left tackle, and that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing.
Yeah, right? I don't necessarily know that. I don't think they necessarily think that they are wanting Babalola to be. They desperately need him to be ready. I think more so they need him to be ready in case they need to call his number. I think they personally, if they can afford it, I think they would rather shelve him for a year and then have thrown to the wolves the next year. However, worst case scenario that you have to play him, then you need to be ready. But I don't think they're gonna just hope and pray that this kid is gonna. If he is legitimately good enough to take the job, then that's great. Cool. hopefully that works out in the fall. But yeah, I mean, look, again, it's spring. We've got a whole fall camp. We got a whole however many months until August, until when fall camp starts, and then that's a whole other process too. We saw what happened last year, so yeah,
And I don't think that can again.
right. I don't think so either. That was not the best way to handle things.
No.
And yeah, so I don't think they're. I mean, yeah, I would think like they would like their guys to be ready, especially the younger ones. But I don't think they need to. They're going to rely on it and just like pray with everything, that he's going to take the job.
And let's be fair too. This isn't the reverse engineering, right? Like, we were hearing really good things about Babalola from the start of spring camp throughout, that he was better physically than they expected. He was better in terms of that football IQ and some of the knowledge things than they expected. Same thing with Norton. Norton added more weight faster than they expected he would, right? Like there is good points there. And even with Evan Link, from what I've heard, it's not necessarily just like, oh, he's awful at left tackle. I think they just really like him at guard too.
Yeah.
Right? Like they played him at guard and Norton some reps at left tackle. I think they just think he's a better fit there. And sometimes that happens. I brought up Carson Barnhart in 23, was just a better guard than he was a tackle. Right? So that could be part of it too, is they want depth and competition. We know Moore wants 10 guys and they don't have the 10 right now. They just don't. You know, so
yeah, it's unfortunate that Hatter wasn't in the mix.
big difference,
yeah, I think I don't think his inserting him into the offensive line room in spring completely changes the narrative, but I think it definitely helps. I mean, A, you've added a body, and then B, it's another experienced guy in the mix that could be a plug and play guy, and then which therefore allows you to, shelve a guy like Babalola, or even, as Steve mentioned, a Blake Frazier, maybe even an Andrew Sprague, who knows? It's like having guys there, more bodies, more competition, more chances to, let others develop where you don't have to rush them along, and expedite their process. But on the flip side of that coin, if they can handle that expedited process and they're responding to it and they can play and they can keep up, then by all means play them. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh God, they're going to play Andrew Babalola in the fall. He's going to start. This is horrible. I would like to see that, honestly. If he's good enough and he's developed enough and he's the guy, I would like to see it just, for the first couple of weeks. And if it's bad, okay, fine. Get him in before the 4 games are up so you can preserve his red shirt, and go from there. But at the same time, if he doesn't, if we don't see him on the field at all this year, then that's okay too. It just, there are reinforcements coming in the summer, and I think that kind of changes the narrative a little bit. Michigan's obviously not working with a stacked deck in the spring right now, and I'm just not really worried about what happens in the spring. It's not. I don't want to say it's irrelevant, but it's just not important right now, because the fall camp, it changes everything. Because last year, if you would have, like, the good vibes coming out of the spring camp, if you would have thought that Michigan was gonna do amazing things in the translated into the fall, and they did do certain amazing things at certain times, but the production wasn't where you thought it was going to be after talking to people. So you got to let the fall play out and see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I think the tough part is it feels like the new era is starting now, because Bryce Underwood is just so likely to be your starting quarterback, and you have a new OC, and it's just like you're ready to hit the go button. And at offensive line, you've had 2 really, really good recruiting classes, and everybody's just one step away. So, like, from a timing standpoint, it feels like the offensive line might be a step behind where the offense itself is in terms of new OC and Bryce coming in, because you've got Sprague is the one guy that's kind of found that spot. We talked about Frazier; he's been banged up in the spring. Jake Gardnera's ready when Crippen goes. You brought up Babalola. You've got Avery Gatch. You've got Strayhorn, Ty Haywood come in. Like all these young guys are there, and it's like they're just not there yet.
Right.
And it just feels like things are a little out of sync. So it'll be interesting to see how things settle and fall. But I'm with you. I said the same thing last year when Link took the job from Gentry. I said, look, if he's better and your redshirt freshman won the job, that's a great thing. What we saw was arguably maybe it should have been Gentry's, and that they overreacted to fall camp or put too much weight into fall camp, something that I think's been acknowledged that the whole picture needs to be there, right? We talked about Crippen being injured for a week and the Dom gets to set. I don't think you're going to see that this year. And who am I kidding? I know you're not going to see that this year because Sherrone Moore already came out and said these three guys are pretty much locks to be starters. Right. So I think they're going to really let people get the jobs some security this year instead of like this end of the line competition at the buzzer during fall camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Spring camp 2-team split proved how deep our D is. Yeah, we talked about that. I think they're into the third and fourth teamers on the defensive line are really, really good. There's a lot of depth there, and I think they will rotate them. Actually, that'll be the next spot we talk about in a second here. In terms of the transfer portal, things that did or didn't happen. But yeah, O-line has to be Sherrone's main focus. Yeah, and I think he acknowledged that this offseason with the moves he made.
Yep.
Giving Chip Lindsey the offense, which allows him to spend more time with the O-line.
Yep.
Biff Pogge comes in, a guy that can help Sherrone with those head coach duties and maybe free him up a little bit with the O-line. Obviously, Castillo comes back. He addressed that. I agree with you. All new offense, like Darren says, QB, OC, wide receiver one, tight end, halfbacks, good portion of the line. Yeah. And when you have an offensive season as bad as you did last year, I don't think it's a bad thing that you're pretty much completely starting over, right? You can only go up is the idea. When is our next first round draft choice on the offensive line? It's probably Babalola, right? Sprague.
Yeah, my guess would have been
Yeah.
I would have said Sprague, but yeah, I mean Babalola, I mean, if he works out the way people are talking about him, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, just from raw talent alone, he's got he's the whole package, for what you're looking for, size, quickness, ability, all that kind of stuff. You can put it all together. He's got the makings to be quite a nasty offensive lineman for sure.
Yeah. Whoever is a steady starter at tackle of the group of Babalola, Sprague, and Haywood, those are going to be your best chance. But let's talk about defensive line real quick, because I think that was a big takeaway for folks that were at the spring game and people that are now watching it are starting to see the same thing, the depth there. Keyshawn Bennett entered the portal. He's a guy that's been around for a while that maybe could have had a TJ guy like season where he's a part of the rotation. He's the second guy. He finally gets his chance. He enters the portal, and I think that is just a giant check for how good Dom Nichols and a name that we've talked about a little bit really emerged for folks when they got to see him in person, Lugard Edekpayi, who is just an absolute monster, right? Like he looks like an NFL player already. His size, his build, the length he's got in his arms. I think Nichols and Lugard are probably your two starting edges of the future next year. But Nichols was already likely to be in the rotation behind TJ Guy probably this year. You've got Cam Brandt as well behind Derek Moore. We know Michigan likes to go 4 deep at edge, but I think they're going to have to go 6 this year. I think you're going to have to get Lugard on the field. And there's going to be a guy like a Devin Baxter. Nate Marshall's still coming in the summer, right? I think the young guys are going to be good enough that they're going to rotate a ton on the edge position. And Derek Moore and TJ Guy are still going to have their opportunities. But I don't think anybody wants those guys playing 50, 60 snaps again like they did last year.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good. Well, let me preface this by saying it's not good that Michigan does not have Kenneth Grant or Mason Grant on the
Right.
roster, but it's good from a younger perspective that, there's more opportunities now. Yeah, granted, Rayshon Benny is still there, Derek Moore is still there, but if you're a younger guy, there's snaps to be had now because there's not very many people in that defensive line room that's going to command 120 snaps total a game, so a guy like Lugard, a Doc Pie, and like even like the Trey Williams and some other offseason additions, it's like there's opportunities still there. So there's a really good chance for a young guy to come in, even like a Dominic Nichols too, to come in and kind of really surprise and carve themselves out a role that they can have the next couple of years, because that guys like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham aren't there anymore, and there's just because of the opportunity to be had. So there's a lot to like, and Espo has done a really, really good job of developing these guys. And I expect that to continue. And I think this year is probably going to be pretty telling, the direction of where the defensive line room is going to go. If they can get if they can hit on some of these younger guys and
where it's going, big.
Yeah, exactly. And if it translates to production on the field, then you're going to be really, really happy with Espo in the near future, and hope you can hang on to him. But I think this year is going to be really, really big for that perspective of, that narrative that Espo has, and rightfully so, that rightful narrative that he's, really good at developing some undersized, under-recruited guys. Well, they have a couple of under-recruited guys, so we'll see we'll see how that translates. But I mean, this is going to be not a big coaching job, but it's going to be a new challenge. I mean, you don't have guys like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham that you can just set and forget. You're going to have to, pay a little more attention to some of these guys, and that's okay. And I think they've got a bunch of talented guys to be a very, very good defensive front seven. I know that have expectations that they've got enough there to be the best front seven in the country. And I don't know that to be true or not. We'll obviously have to see that play out on the field. But I mean, you lose two guys. However, you've got some pieces that are coming in that need to carve some roles out for themselves, and the staff believes that they can. So the sky is absolutely the limit for this group, for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I made this comparison on the last show too. It reminds me a lot of 2022, where you lost Hutch, you lost Ajabo, and it's like, oh my gosh, how are you going to replace these guys? There's, you're losing Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, and Josiah Stewart. How in the world are you going to get better? And I think just from a depth standpoint, a committee approach, they will. But you probably do want a few guys to step up. Henry brings up, as deep as the interior goes, there's more run stoppers than pass rushers. Mason Graham's ability to disrupt the center of the pocket was obviously huge. Somebody brought up too, Derek Moore, can he be an All-American guy? We talked about last year, and I think someone else did bring up, Juju did, about how his win rate and pressures and everything were right there, but a lot of times Stewart was getting the sack or Mason Graham was getting the sack, right? So will a guy like Rayshon Benny put up huge numbers, or is it going to be spread out amongst him, a Payne, Trey Williams, Big Ike, Trey Pierce? The name I'm still kind of looking at is Enoetta, if he's going to be able, because he's DT6 right now.
Yep.
And there's been a lot of hype on him. And is he going to be able to carve out a role as kind of that Mike Morris guy that can slide outside when necessary? Because I'll tell you, again, I was just saying with the size, Pale Pale is a big dude.
Yeah.
Travis Moten, like, I want to be careful because I'm sure he's the nicest guy in the world. I said this in the last episode too, and I realized, like, I don't mean this in a mean way, but he scares me.
Yeah.
Like, he is just, he's a big dude, and he's intimidating, and I mean it in a good way. Like, that's what you want from a football player, right? That's why I realized last time I'm like making it sound like the guy's a serial killer, and he's probably like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
So I'm sure
I mean,
he's a nice guy, but dude, They're just huge.
If Moten is a kid that they hit on and develop, and Espo is obviously still the one to develop, then yeah, I mean, they could take anyone and you'd be like, all right, that's fine. They'll develop him, they're guaranteed to develop him. So yeah, I mean, Etta is another guy that, is a tweener. Is he a true tackle? Is he a true end? Will they ever figure out if he's one or the other? I don't know, but he's a kid I'd love to see it take a step.
Like 310 pounds now, so I don't know. Not really a tweener anymore, but
yeah. So we'll see. It's some people have gotta take some steps forward, but all the talent is there. It's just got to be developed, and we'll see if that happens.
Our boy Aiden, who, if you guys are not familiar, if you're not in the Twitter sphere or haven't been on the page, has helped us out as our recruiting insider, and has just been I almost swore. He has just been incredible. That's good, right?
I would have, so it's fine.
Yeah, just absolutely killing it for us. Aiden's doing a fantastic job. But he brings up Espo, loves Moten, wrestler out of high school. God, who was that other defensive tackle who was a wrestler? Mason something.
Anyway. Oh, yeah, that Mason fella.
Yeah.
I hear he's pretty good.
He's all right. Oh, my God. Speaking of which, that video with his grandma. All right, did you see that?
No, I missed it.
Oh, they sat him down and they're like, hey, your grandma wants to talk to you. They had this video of his grandma just saying how proud she is and going through, how they've watched him since he was little and him achieving his dreams. And dude, he's a mess. I'm like, oh my God. So I
can see that.
I text Alan. I'm like, dude. He's like, oh, I know. It killed me too. So I was keeping
Alan is his dad, by the way. Way to casually name drop that you talked to his dad.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
No. I talked to them a little bit. I'm old, so we've talked about this before. Like, I'm a lot cooler with the parents than I am the players often because I'm closer in age to them.
The Graham family has been very good to us, and we appreciate them very much.
No, I was just letting Alan know I was thinking about them, and I was excited for him. And, at one point, I was like, I'll let you go. I'm sure you're busy. He's like, I'm laying in bed in the hotel room. I don't know what Mason's doing, but I'm chilling. Like, that's awesome. But, man, if you have any doubts just about how awesome Mason Graham is, gets picked, does kind of his obligations he has to after getting picked, and then immediately goes back to the green room to hang out with Will Johnson.
Yeah.
And stayed with Will Johnson throughout the entire first round to be there for him and support him while he wasn't getting selected. And then how emotional he gets in that video from his grandma, dude. He's it, man. And then he's on the field calling Jack Sawyer a pussy right to his face. So just
I wonder how Cleveland Buckeye fans will feel about it. They probably will forget all about it as soon as he makes his first sack.
Hopefully we'll see. But yeah, just absolute Michigan legend, man. And I thought that was cool too. I saw him at the spring game Saturday, and again I was talking to his dad. Just said, dude, his legacy just secured, man. Some guys get treated different at Michigan, and you can tell he's one of those dudes. And I thought it was cool because he said, yep, that's why he came back. Like, that was important to him to not have the 2 great years at Michigan, then a year somewhere else. He was just Michigan legacy. Boom. That was important to Mason. That's why he came back. Thought that was pretty cool. So,
absolutely.
I guess the last kind of present thing I want to touch on, because there was some talk of Michigan maybe looking at corner again. They did look at corner in the winter portal. There's some names out there that were familiar in the spring. A lot of people I noticed that moved in winter moved again in spring. It's really weird. Like, yeah. But I know some people had some attention on Emmanuel Carney, the Arizona corner that ended up going to Miami. What's interesting to me about him was, and you can look these up, this isn't like a post like the kid leaves so then they start bashing him. He was CB5 in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The depth charts coming out, I've talked to our Miami guy, and they were, Sports Illustrated, and like you can look up Miami football depth charts even before he entered the portal. He wasn't listed as a starter, which is kind of crazy to think of, but that was the word coming out of Miami, was he wasn't going to start for them. So I don't know if they touch base or not, but I think the secondary, Josh, we talked about the spring game, eyes confirming ears, right? That's all it is. I'm not looking at any drastic conclusions. I just want to know if what I've been hearing, I want to see it, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Aiden. He's so good. So they are talking to corners, right? But we were kind of thinking the secondary was going to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the stronger units Saturday. Granted, they got away with some PIs. I kind of made a joke about that, like how funny some of the PIs are. I'm glad people got to see a couple of them. But I think people are feeling a little bit better now, where it's like, okay, Zeke Berry, Jair Hill getting out there with his head on. Metcalf, both of them, but TJ Metcalf, I talked about kind of being that nickel spot. He was moving from the box, dropping back to safety, playing nickel. His brother looked like a really, really good depth piece at corner. Yeah. Jeremiah Lowe gets a couple interceptions. Rod Moore is going to be running in the summer. And man, I still in the back of my mind, I'm almost like moving forward, like he's not on the team. And if he is, that would be amazing. Just because he's been out for so long. But man, a healthy Rod Moore with a Mason Curtis and a Brandon Hillman and a Mangum and Jordan Young looked really good for a young guy. And again, I'm kind of just like, hey, wait a minute. I'm naming a lot of names. Maybe this spot's going to be pretty good. And then Henry makes a good point.
Yep.
Best friend for the secondary is that defensive front.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think the big concern that I heard personally was the back end of the defensive back room was kind of the less experienced group that they were kind of concerned with. I don't think they were necessarily worried about the core guys that, we know about. The back half of the room is kind of what is concerning. And yeah, I mean, to come out and show, have a good day is a good sign for fans. I mean, they could have had 5 really bad days in a row, and the one day they have a good day is in front of people that can see it. I'm not as concerned about the defensive back groups as maybe some others are. I don't know. I haven't really seen much concern about, the defensive backs from the fan perspective, maybe more so though, just kind of, there's a little bit of a lack of experience there. Sure. And which kind of equates to lack of depth because they don't have many guys that have had the live bullets. But yeah, if those guys that you mentioned take a step forward this year, I think they'll have a pretty healthy rotation, and yeah, getting Rod Moore back would be absolutely gigantic. But big thing is,
I didn't even mention Shamari Earls in that whole rant.
Yeah. I think my big thing is if you get Rod Moore back, what is he going to be? What Rod Moore are you getting? So if he's Rod Moore of old, they'll be great. They'll be just fine. If he's the knee injury. And then, some other stuff in there is like, does that change? Does it change who he is? Does it slow him down? Does he lose a step? I don't think it changes his football smarts at all. I mean, he's an extremely intelligent football player who knows the scheme very, very well. So that's not going to be a concern. It's just kind of the physical side and how that's going to translate. So, they'll have to adjust if he's not the same, but just him being on the field is a huge win for this group. So much throughout from top to bottom for this team, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of players, a lot of guys that if they work out and if they take a step, then they're going to be really, really good on both sides of the ball. But that's the big question mark is, can these guys take the next step? Can Ashari Earls be a starter caliber type of player? If he is, oh boy, you're off to the races, man. You are off to the races. Mason Curtis, is he going to take another step? Is he going to be on that Brandon Hillman type of level guy? Oh boy, if you're onto something here. Trey Pierce on the defensive line looks good. Can that translate to on the field? If it does, oh boy, you've added another piece. Cole Sullivan, linebacker, if he comes out and performs and lives up to expectations, oh boy, you've added another linebacker.
And what's nice is you don't need all of them.
Right. You don't necessarily, I mean,
If
you'll
one
never,
of those guys hits at
right.
these position groups, right? Like,
You'll never 100% hit on every guy, but
of course
what
not.
made Michigan the last 5 years is their hit rate on guys was astronomically huge, like 95% huge. So, and that was one of their key factors of why they're a national championship team, is because they developed guys who stayed and just did a really good job recruiting and scouting and develop them into players. So if Michigan's hit rate for these guys that are coming in, like the Shamari Earls, the young guys, the Mason Curtises of the world, and if their hit rates are high, there's no telling what the trajectory of this program can continue to be under Sherrone Moore if the development continues like we think it will.
And that's the last piece of that continuity from the Michigan program and culture and blah, 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 that, that word, that buzzword. I think the last piece that does need to continue to exist is that.
Yeah.
Right. That's the one piece. I'm not going to try and look it up right now, but it was basically a chart showing the correlation between recruiting rankings and where they go in the draft and which schools obviously recruit really well. And then do they hit the mark? Is that following through in terms of going to the NFL, or, are guys not making it? And, Georgia was in a league of their own in terms of elite recruiting and elite NFL production, right? That's just Georgia's Georgia of this era right now. And then Ohio State, elite recruiting a little bit below the NFL line. I think they've had some 5-star guys not go in the top, but I mean, also kind of a factory. Those two are kind of in their own world. Clemson and a Texas A&M, really high in recruiting rankings, not necessarily translating to NFL, right? They're doing less with more. And then Michigan's on the other side of that. They're in that bubble of these top 10 recruiting groups, but they're putting in as many guys as a Georgia or an Ohio State. And that's been like, if you want to go to the league, Michigan, right? Especially with the 3 and the 4-star guys that they're able to develop. But it's that next piece. It's Bryce Underwood being the number 1 pick, right? Stuff like that. And they want to do that. They've been very vocal, and you can see that they're recruiting with the size that, look, we're going after NFL guys, right? Prototypes. And we saw it this week with a quarterback commitment that I think in the shadow of Bryce Underwood is impressive alone. But when you think about with Brady Smigiel, they did it.
Good job. That was the first one too. On the first mention, that was pretty impressive.
Whew, Brady Smigiel.
Brady.
This journey of, he was arguably Michigan's top target over a year ago, right? And things kind of changed. Sour. He ends up at Florida State. Michigan's got Brady Hart. Underwood commits, and Brady Hart says, "No, I'm good. I love it. I'm ready to be in the room with Bryce." And then a week later, reclassifies, and he's a 2025 commit to A&M. And now Michigan's without a 26. And you've got Bryce Underwood, which means if I'm committing as a 26, I'm assuming I'm not going to start for 2 years because you've got Bryce Underwood. And here they go and they come back around, and you can build on this more. About the recruitment, what happened with Chip Lindsey specifically.
Yeah.
What an incredible job by him. Now I've got Bryce. I get Brady. I'm in on a bunch of 27 QBs, top QBs. I think the name everybody has circled in 28 continues to be Tabron, because he's kind of like the next Bryce. So you need to prove you can once again keep that top quarterback in your backyard home. I think he's maybe the one name you're circling now, where there's a bunch of guys at 27. But anyway, my point is, Michigan's done the next step after Bryce of, we're going to get an elite NFL type prototype quarterback every single year. And it's just an incredible job for Chip Lindsey with the late start he got. And then again, I'll let you get into just the roller coaster of the recruitment with Brady.
Yeah, I think the best thing that Michigan this is just from a Brady Smigiel perspective alone, I think the best thing Michigan did for themselves was bringing in Chip Lindsey. That resurrected that recruitment from the death. I was told this in private, but since Brady has come out and said it when I was talking to him during his commitment article, he did not have a good relationship with Kirk Campbell. It was very good, and then it quickly soured. And he basically was like, yeah, I kind of lost interest in Michigan. And the relationship with Kirk Campbell just kind of soured a little bit because of stuff happening. And then, Kirk Campbell gets fired. So Chip Lindsey comes in, and that was a game changer for Michigan from a recruiting perspective alone. I mean, we'll find out whether that'll work schematically and on Saturdays, but from a Brady Smigiel perspective, that was a home run hire for them. Had been talking to the Smigiel family for 2 years when he was with North Carolina. So right. It wasn't just like he came in and was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then they struck up a conversation was immediately a fan. But oh boy. Yeah, well,
your average fan reminds me of my 7-year-old son. He just can't help but be on the nose and honest.
Yep.
Tells it like it is.
Hey, it had to happen eventually. It's why go for a twofer there. It happened. So yeah, it was such a natural progression because obviously the Smigiel family were very familiar with Michigan anyway before, and were very, very interested in Michigan before Brady Hart committed. So things just kind of naturally progressed, and it just made a lot of sense. I mean, I think before the relationship with Kirk Campbell soured, I was a firm believer that the Smigiel would have ended up at Michigan regardless if they would have just kind of kept it on the same path. But obviously things didn't work out that way. And somehow, the twisting and turning paths kind of intertwined within itself at met on Saturday, and it came to a commitment. I think things worked relatively quickly. Sherrone quickly prioritized once he got Chip Lindsey established, and they kind of would established a base floor in terms of their relationship. They brought recruiting into it too, and then Smigiel was obviously a mutual interest kind of guy in both Sherrone and Chip Lindsey's mind. So both of them spearheaded this recruitment, open and honest with both of them in terms of, their expectations for him in terms of coming into the room and competing. No one's being promised anything. Even, Bryce was never promised anything in terms of a starting role, but, we all know what he's capable of. And, Smigiel mentioned this himself. Michigan's going to have an extremely thin quarterback room next year. I mean, it's just going to be, if things stay the same, it's just going to be Bryce and Herb Street and Jaden Davis in the room. So they need another body. And he adds that. He adds competition. He said he's not afraid of competition. He's not afraid of coming in and earning his spot, and he's got all the confidence in himself that he can. And we'll see what that looks like next year. I mean, it's still got another year of everything to happen, but to get back-to-back 5-star quarterbacks in the class is just really a testament to this staff and their ability to recruit quarterbacks. So you just got to prove it on the field now. You just got to have Chip Lindsey's scheme and Michigan's scheme come together, prove it on the field. If you can throw it, you can attract some good offensive players once you kind of get your ducks in a row in that regard. But it was just such an easy decision for Smigiel to come back into Michigan's radar and for them to kind of come together and this culminate into a commitment. It should have been it should have been him the whole time, but it is
Yeah.
it is what it is.
There it is. Right
So,
under the hour mark.
Yeah,
that took a
here we
while.
are. Narrative sake, it's probably better to do it now because then you can say, hey, Michigan's got 2 back-to-back 5-star quarterbacks committed in 25 and 26, and they're in on some good players in 27 and 28 as well. So, it was just meant to be, and Chip Lindsey really kind of put the bow on top of really kind of sealed this deal of the comfort and the familiarity and just getting it done and over with. So, just a great job by the staff to getting them back in on it today and resurrecting this thing. And everyone's just ready to rock. They're both home. They're both comfortable, Michigan and Smigiel. So they're just kind of ready for it to all work out.
Well, props to him and his family too. I think sometimes, like with these recruiting processes, it's so good to be deliberate and take the visits and really give every school a chance, because sometimes you come in with these preconceived thoughts of what something's going to be and it's not. A lot of people, your dream school is the one you grew up rooting for, and then you're like, maybe I don't like the campus as much as I thought, or something else. You know what I mean? It could be something weird. And with them, it really felt like that last visit, and then obviously Washington getting involved. It's like they kind of just hit the pause button and we're like, we love Michigan, right? That's it, right? and I think they just kind of came to that point where it's like, man, we've been doing this for so long, and we could probably do it all the way to signing day if you really want to.
Right. And they never really intended to be the type that commits and then decommits and then commits somewhere else. It just happened that way, and they didn't want
Florida State fired everybody but the head coach, basically.
Right. And they didn't want to they didn't want to do that again. So, they were very deliberate. And I'm not saying they weren't deliberate the first time around, but they were very deliberate the second time around because they wanted to get it right. Yeah. And they feel like they got it right, and that things are it's all good. And I mean, props to them for being deliberate and making sure, Brady, especially being a young kid, making sure he was making the right choice. And according to him, Michigan's the right choice. So, that relationship, he's already putting his recruiting hat on. The staff's already given him numbers to call. And
Jalen Pyle, who I think is one of the most underrated receivers I've seen in a while. That kid is an absolute freak athlete, just a dog. He's dominating 7-on-7s already early. And I know that's not football, but the kid's just so good. Him and Brady linked up online publicly, so I'm sure they have privately too. To your point though, they're talking to some of the best receivers in the 26 and 27 recruiting class. They're gonna want to see it on the field. Right? You got to do it. I believe you. I love the vision. I love the talk. I love Bryce. Blah 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 blah. Do it.
Yeah, that's
the only. You got to do it.
Michigan's missing really is the proof is in the pudding type of thing. Like they can promise recruits all the money in the world, but if you're not producing on Saturdays, A, the staff that's recruiting you isn't going to be there, and B, you're not going to develop. If they can't develop and they can't produce, then you're not going to develop and you're not going to produce. I mean, I don't care how good you could be, the best wide receiver in the history of the game, and if they're not developing or producing, you're not going to. You're going to have to find that somewhere else. So, let me see it on Saturdays. Let me see it.
And can I tell you the most low level thing, as dumb as this sounds? These kids just want to have fun, right? Like when you're in an offense that doesn't trust you, and doesn't let you take shots, or has you running these long routes over and over again when you're never getting thrown the football, where you do get open and the quarterback doesn't find you, or whatever it might be, it's not fun. And you work. I mean, the game is such a small piece of what these players do. The amount of meetings and film review and workouts and prep and everything you do to play this little game, and then they don't let you play. It's not fun. These guys just want to have fun, right? And we might as well finish on this. A few people have asked about the wide receivers. I still think people think there's like this magic. Oh, we just got to get this guy from the portal, and then that fixes everything. Even if that guy was there, and there's a couple of names, I think very early in the winter portal, I was like, man, I'd love to have them. Again, it's tough to get them to come here, given what your offense was the previous year, right? I think McCulley was an absolutely massive pickup.
Yep.
He looks the part, the way other players are talking about him. I think he's poised for a big year. It looks like he did earn the number 1 jersey through the spring, which cool. I like that Roman kind of puts the value back into that, but he wore number 1 previously, had 13 when he got here, and it kind of looked like he was suggesting he's going to go ahead and have the 1. But anyway, the thing I keep telling people is you've got 8 or 9 people in that room already. You're going to have Marlon Klein, Hogan Hansen, maybe a Brady Prescorn, maybe a Jalen Hoffman involved in the passing game. You're probably with Chip Lindsey going to see a lot more passes to a Haynes, to a Marshall, right? You don't need 5 wide receivers. Michigan never has. You need like 2 or 3. And if you feel good about having McCulley as your big body outside receiver and Jamar Browder coming along, right? He's a freshman, but Browder, you can see again, absolutely looks the part. He's a big dude. Fred Moore in the Z role, finally got to put it together. And then can I get one of either Smigiel in his role? Andrew Marsh is I think Andrew Marsh having a good year is good for Michigan this year and for recruiting.
Yep.
Right. Allowing Andrew Marsh to get some reps would probably be a good thing. Channing Goodwin got a ton of slot reps in the spring game. Can he be a guy that you need one of that group to come out? And I don't think that's a crazy ask. And I also don't think going out and getting, what was it? Was it Skylar Bell from UConn?
No.
What was wasn't that his name?
Alexander from UMass. No, he's
he's coming in. You're talking Anthony Simpson's on. Yeah, he's coming in.
Anthony Simpson. Yeah.
I was saying in the portal, they were flirting with
Skylar
Bell for a while. They didn't work out.
I misheard you. Sorry. I thought you said no. Yeah, they were going after Skylar Bell.
I don't, that doesn't make me feel much different than I do already, to be honest with you.
It's not. Right.
Yes, this is what I'm getting at. Don't rotate 6 or 8 receivers.
Right.
Commit to the few. Give me your 3 or 4 and play them. And give Marsh his chances and give whoever else their chances and do what you said before. If you make an explosive play, when I give you the opportunity, I'm going to give you more chances to be explosive. Whoever's explosive is who's going to play, right? But and for Bryce's sake too, I think it'd be good for him to get some chemistry if he knows it's McCulley at all times, if he knows it's Moore at all times. You start to understand the players better instead of you look up and you're like, oh, that's Peyton O'Leary over there. I don't even know who's that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've said it. I think I say it every podcast, but I'm not. I want to see the wide receivers with a better quarterback, with an offensive line that took a step forward from last year. You had bad quarterback play and average offensive line play. That's a recipe for not good passing. I mean, that was a horrific passing offense last year. And a lot of that had to do with having a quarterback that couldn't get them the ball. Bless Davis Warren's soul. He beat Ohio State. He's just not the guy. And that's why you went and got a guy like Bryce Underwood, who's capable of making the hard throws. So I really, truly think that if we see better quarterback play, that you're going to see, in turn, better wide receiver play because you finally got someone that can get the ball there to these guys. I don't think guys getting open was a problem last year. Guys were open. You just couldn't get a quarterback who couldn't see the guy open or could make the tough throw to get there. So I'm not ready to be like, oh man, the wide receivers are going to be so bad. I just get a guy who can get them the ball and who has got all the talent in the world. Bryce checks every box in that regard. Obviously that has to translate on Saturdays, but I think today they are way better at quarterback than what they were against Alabama in the whatever the bowl was.
ReliaQuest.
Sorry, the ReliaQuest Bowl.
How could you forget
years ahead at better in quarterback?
The tradition and pageantry that is the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Yeah, well,
yeah. No, I'm with you. We've talked about this a bunch. That was it just this part of the offense, or was it all of these pieces together? The play calling, blah blah blah. Like, I'm still struggling to blame the players, because like I saw what Samaj did as a freshman with JJ McCarthy at quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, people don't realize he had the best freshman year at wide receiver since like Jeremy Gallen. He had a really, really good freshman year, right? And anybody who watches the show regularly or reads Stock Report knows I was screaming every week about, why is Fred Moore, who I thought was the best receiver on the team last year, not getting reps? Is he really in the doghouse over this deep ball interception that Warren threw? Why is Kendrick Bell leading in snap count but not getting any targets? Why, it made no sense to me. So could this be like a wide receiver room that is really, really not good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't know that. I don't think we've had a chance to find out. I really don't. And I love the addition of McCulley, and I believe in Fred Moore. And I also believe if he doesn't do it when getting the opportunity, then it needs to be Channing Goodwin, or it needs to be Andrew Marsh. Like, give that guy a chance and rely on those 3 or 4. And yeah, don't. And we saw, I think about like Peyton O'Leary made that huge play last year in the Ohio State game on the 3rd down, right? But like, Davis Warren to Peyton O'Leary is not a sustainable right? to go out and win playoff games,
This is 100% a coaching issue too. I mean, you had a guy who has very minimal offensive coordinating experience, and we kind of bought too much into the Harbaugh tree in terms of from the natural progression, and and we saw the result of not having an experienced guy, play caller and schemer.
Yeah,
and the result. So therefore, I'm not ready to freak out about the wide receivers yet. Now, however, if we're still talking about this week 4, week 5,
yes,
yeah, absolutely, this is another coaching issue that you have to dive even deeper into. But I'm just not.
It's a big prove it year. That's fair.
Oh, absolutely, 100% a prove it year. 100%. I mean, yeah, you spent all this money and all this time on Bryce Underwood to come in, and you still can't get results, and you get Chip Lindsey in, and you still can't get results. Yeah, you're gonna have to look a little inwardly in here in terms of who you're hitching your wagon to, in terms of other staff members. But I'm just not at that level yet. I'm just not there. I can be very quickly though if we continue to see this.
I like a lot of the players. I think is the thing. I like a lot of the players.
Yeah,
I've seen their film, and the one constant has been Michigan. I mean, going back to even Rudock, dude, the hitting on the deep balls, it's been Michigan. So Michigan needs to fix this problem, right? Look at Nico Collins in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, the guys were here at one point. I don't know. And when I talked to Darbo about this, and our buddy Lee, like, I watch college football every Saturday. Whatever level of college football I'm watching, no matter how great or bad the team is, it feels like every team can get somebody open, can scheme someone open, right? It's not like the NFL where these guys are machines, right? Somebody's making, in college football, generally speaking, a player's making a mistake almost every single play, right? It's 11 on 11, one-on-one matchups, like, figure out who, but there's a guy open almost every play, right? Or there's ways to scheme it. It's just, it feels like we've made it so freaking hard, and it just doesn't need to be. So we'll see. I'm with you. If it's the middle of the season and there's still issues, then we'll talk about it. But All right, we're at that point where we're at over an hour, and some of the weird questions are starting to come in. So let's get silly for a little bit.
Yep, and I got groceries coming that might melt. So yeah, I got like 10 minutes.
All right, sounds good. Get them ice cream. Circuit City reference here. Full of clearance portable. Wait, Circuit City Bowl full of clearance portable players. Oh God, I gotta find that shirt. I still can't. I swear I have that. Vegemite melts.
That sounds gross.
Ugh. Yeah, well, Josh went to Australia, came back with a recruiting insider.
yeah, that was the reason I went. I had 2 weeks worth of meetings, and I got them.
We're gonna get him on the pod, but like I think it's 7 a.m. for him right now. 8 maybe.
Yeah, it's very early in the morning right now.
Well, he was in here, so he can get awake.
It was probably a school day for him because he's in high school. Unbelievable. I had no idea that he was in high school. I thought he was had just graduated.
That's interesting. All right, let's see here. I might have to go too because I'm
sure. I do season my food, Juju, because I don't like bland stuff.
I love the whole thing about all the wars that England fought for spices, and they don't put any of it on food. It really doesn't make any sense at all.
They don't. They don't.
It's the blandest stuff
I hate
ever,
dude. And you gotta season it.
I'm trying to do something.
Dude,
how the CBS morning interview with Bill Belichick, his girlfriend, I can't remember her name. I don't care.
Can't stand her. I cannot stand her ass. I cannot stand her.
It's so weird because she's like listed as like a COO or something on like all of his little business ventures, and she's there like everything aside. I think the relationship's creepy as hell. I don't want anything to do with it, but it's weird how public it's becoming now and like the coverage it's getting. And
Belichick must be just absolutely slinging it. He
must
be slinging it because like there's other than like him being rich, there's no other reason.
I think my favorite clip was they were like leaving. I think they were leaving a UNC basketball game or something, and she was holding like she had her like sweatshirt or her coat down, like it was still on her arms, but it was like hanging off her back a little bit, which is just a total like teenage early 20s girls thing to do. And it was like, bro, you can't be 70 and with a girl that holds her coat like this.
What can you relate to an old person with when you're that age?
It's weird, dude.
I can't relate to them.
He's got to have. I mean, I know.
Other than money,
his kids that are coaching are like 40 something, right?
Yeah, he has kids almost her age. Like, what are they going to talk?
Older, well older.
Like, I mean, like good for Bill, but like, yeah, he can relate to. He can, yeah, exactly.
Dude. No,
I just don't. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Nobody
and the fact that she's trying to like run the program too is really weird. Yeah. I just got a feeling that's going to be an absolutely massive disaster. It's just waiting to implode.
I will say fish and chips is like elite.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't. Maybe that's more Irish too. I don't know. I might start a war with that. Derek, that's disgusting. How I long for the days of David Terrell, Marquise Walker, Avon Edwards. I know. It was just like there was always a receiver. But you know what? I talked about this the other day too. I remember when it was like Braylon was the freshman wearing number 80. He was the next guy, and he played a little. Then he played more, and he worked his way up. Manningham. I remember when Manningham was the next guy, and they worked up. But you always had your three receivers. Just play three receivers.
And here's the thing: Michigan had a quarterback that could throw them the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, who did Stephen Threek throw to that you could get a look back and say, "Oh, you remember the day?" Blah blah.
Even then, though, I mean, Michigan's putting up 2,500 passing yards, 2,600. Like the 3,000 mark is such a big deal. And honestly, I think JJ gets there, and I think Bryce is going to get there just by. I don't think you need to even throw it more. You just need to be more efficient.
Yeah.
Hit some guys in the intermediate routes. Connect on a couple more deep balls. Your numbers are going to look way better And you could still run a 50-50 split because let's be honest, running the football is still going to be key to this offense.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like is I think Chip Lindsey's a college OC and he knows you can do a lot of work in the 10 to 19 range.
Right.
And you go get a guy like McCulley and you just throw it higher so only he can go get it. Steven wasn't much of a treat. Greg Matthews.
Yeah, he had that one catch against Notre Dame, but that was Tate Forcier.
Bro, I was just gonna say it's so funny. One of my most vivid Michigan memories ever is me and Mr. Waddy in section 6, like row 3, right in the corner.
Yeah.
Where Forcier hit Matthews for that win, Golden Tate, and oh God, who was the tight end who ended up pitching for the Cubs? Samardzija was on that team. Yeah, Jimmy Clausen.
Yeah.
Right. We left that stadium saying, dude, we got our quarterback. Yeah. I can't believe it.
And
they got his quarterback. Tate's gonna win the September Heisman, baby.
They would have if he would have just got his head on straight. That he would have been a really good college.
And then Denard came after that.
He was like what Johnny Manziel would have been if he kept his head on straight and actually didn't like flunk out of school. Yeah, Steve, thank you. Tate was Johnny Manziel. He absolutely was. He was Johnny Manziel before his time and screwed it up. Totally just absolutely screwed it up. But hey, it is what it is. So whatever. But
double it is what it is reference. All right. Let's get out of here. All right. So you guys know the drill. You know the usual. If you've been watching live and a part of the conversation, appreciate you as always. If you're watching back and you want to be a part, like, subscribe, notification bell so you know when we go live, not just us Sundays with Hail to the Podcast, but Dennis during the week with his live show. He takes a lot of comments too. You guys really fuel the show. And I hope you guys know too, over at Maize Blue Review, Michigan.rivals.com. Again, we work for you guys. We don't talk at you. You're always part of the conversation. So if you're not a subscriber already, head on over there, Michigan.rivals.com. Now's a good time to join. We got a lot of intel coming in, recruiting starting to pick up. And again, if you need to use promo code Blue30 to give yourself a free shot, feel free. And then you can come in and ask your fellow subscribers what they think, and you don't have to take the sales pitch from me. So, Yaxel is on campus. We'll probably have more on that. I highly doubt. I mean, June's the cutoff deadline. He's still probably going to talk to NBA folks, I would think. But vibes are good there. So I think that's kind of the last little piece with basketball. And then, man, summertime. We'll be talking about football, and then the season will come and you'll blink and it'll be gone. Just like it does every year. Yep. For sure.
Absolutely.
But, all right, guys. Appreciate you as always. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being with us. Hail to the podcast.